Thank you. Thanks so much, Pavla. She sort of gave it up. This is what the talk is about. There is no more surprise. I just wanted to say thank you for the organizers. Seems like an amazing event. It's really well organized. If I do stumble upon some of the things in my presentation, it's because I'm completely jet-lagged. I just flew in last night and got about 4 hours of sleep. But it's okay. I'm super excited about this project. This is what we're going to go over in the next 30 minutes. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, what I do, how I got here, and why I'm here in Czech Republic. I'll tell you a little bit about my project that I work on in collaboration with NASA. I'll tell you how I got to be so lucky and honored to do that, what's in the scope of the project, and why I'm presenting here at this conference. So, yeah, timeline about myself. So born in the 80s in Russia, that's my mom, very cute. Oh, the picture in the background, that's actually Berkeley, and where I lived for about 9 years out of my life in California, of 12 altogether. Yeah, was born in Russia and moved around because of my dad and his military career. Ended up living in Belarus and benefited heavily from growing up in a socialist society of free education, piano classes, but very quickly realized that opportunities lie elsewhere, not in Russia. So I actually moved to Germany in early 2000s, in Frankfurt, to be exact. And I attended a stage and musical school in my aspiration to become a musical performer. So dancing, singing, acting was a big part of my life. Like Pavla, who is a journalist, I actually wanted to be one, but the stage was sort of the second option. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I still enjoy dancing. Yeah, after about 7 years in Germany, I moved to the US, to California. That was my path. I went to Berkeley. Go Bears, you have to do that. If you're a Cal alumni, you have to do a shout out every time you mention the name. So I actually worked as an analyst for the judicial branch of California government for a few years before a friend of mine reached out and said, hey, do you want to join Google? We do some cool things. And living in Silicon Valley, it's sort of, you either know somebody or visited a cafe, and at that point, most of my friends already worked at Google, so I thought, yeah, I'll try it. And I currently work on Google Assistant on the team called Actions on Google. We bring in the third-party apps into Google Assistant by building the integration, so you're able to say, hey, Google, call me an Uber. That's what we do. It's actually really fun. What's next? Yeah, so why I'm here? Because I'm going to Mars. Well, yeah. Almost, not there yet. I'll wait until Elon Musk actually builds a rocket that can take us there. I'm going to Devon Island, which is a part of Baffin Islands, or Baffin Archipelago, in the Canadian Arctic. It's actually frozen the majority of the year. There are about 45 to 50 days that it's not covered by snow. And that becomes a home to a NASA scientists. There is a base camp that opens for 40 days, and a group of them, generally 8, go out and do Mars trip simulations. The island is really unique because it has a huge crater, Houghton crater. I'll see if I have a picture of it. Yeah, just a little perspective. Yeah, so the Houghton crater and the Houghton Mars Project Research Station is right at the ridge of the crater. It's about 23 kilometers in diameter, and was just happened to be right here, and was created in in the impact, so about 39 million years ago, there was a massive projectile of about 2 kilometers that hit the Earth. And then the impact was so violent that it actually brought out the rocks from about 2 kilometers from underneath the surface of the Earth. And because of the permafrost and very little water flow, it remains intact, and is actually very interesting to the NASA scientists because it's the most comparable to the weather conditions and rock formations on Earth to Mars. All right, what else do I have? Oh, a little perspective. I'll just show you where it's at. So we have the Czech Republic, Devon Island right there, and Google. Yeah, it's a place on the map now. Yeah, that's where I'm going. We're going in about a month. So Devon Island is uninhabited, and it's the largest uninhabited island on Earth. It's close to public, so you can't go there. It's a research island. Also not sort of not a vacation spot you want to go because it's so cold and devoid of any animal or plant life. Home to the Houghton crater, as I told you. Polar desert, very similar climate to Mars. About -8 is the average temperature in Celsius. When we go there, it's going to be anywhere from 8 to 16 degrees in summer. The white night, so we sort of get about 22 hours of light there. It just never gets dark, I mean, apart from the 2 hours. Yeah, and it's the only impact crater on Earth that's set in a polar desert, and really has an exceptional range of Mars analog. Those are actually the pictures from Devon Island taken by the NASA scientists, and this is the picture of the crater. I'm super excited, and you can tell really similarities. It's really fascinating. Yeah, this is going to be our research station. It's actually built in a star shape. This is a proposed design for a potential base camp on Mars. Works perfect for extreme weather conditions because you can easily get everywhere. And the island is so pristine, we can't leave any trash or anything we produce on the island. We're actually taking it back to mainland Canada. And what's a field trip without vehicles? So we're actually really well prepared with all of the Humvees and ATVs and SUVs. It's going to be fun. How did I get to be so lucky? Well, and this is sort of goes into the entire conference. I'm super curious. I always ask questions. I always want to learn things. I am good at relationship building, so this project started as a 20% project with my collaboration with NASA and grew into, you'll learn a little more, a massive undertaking. I get things done. I'm a decent problem solver, and I'm really passionate about what I do. I take on projects that I truly care about or want to learn about. So it's really up to you. Back to how I got to be so lucky. Yeah, I work at Google, which outside of free food and amazing cafes, fantastic people you work with, also tries to stimulate us by organizing talks at Google. And I'll show you, they're actually really cool. So you can check it out, Talks at Google. And I just went into a bunch of sections. They're all recorded. You can go to their YouTube channel. And there are already multiple NASA collaborations, like you can watch their talks. So I just went to one of the talks, and somebody from NASA, the director of Mars Institute, was giving a talk on Mars, and I found it so fascinating. I just asked him if I could treat him to lunch. I mean, at Google, it's free. And for them, though, like their 3-minute walk, they're like, oh yeah, we'll walk over. And because Google was already doing so much with NASA, I wanted my own project. So I selfishly just invited him to lunch and said, okay, let's work on something. And it's been a long, about 3.5-year relationship. Some of the projects failed, many of them. We started and either ran out of resources or the scientific community couldn't narrow down the landing spots, so we couldn't map them out. So it's not all success story. But I am working with them now, and I'm honored to be asked to join them. It's really, I think I'm the third not planetary scientist who is invited to Devon Island. Persistence, I guess. And what would I be doing there? So first of all, the project started with us agreeing that we're going to collect some street view imagery. So there is no currently street view of Devon Island because nobody has taken 360 cameras there. So the street view team is equipping me with something like this. So this is an old tracker. They actually created something a little lighter. And because this is getting a lot of publicity, I'm actually bringing a few GoPros and a few different things that I can work with, some good equipment actually. But just an FYI, next vacation, you're planning to a remote place that you see Google Earth doesn't have Street View of. Google has these on loan, so you can actually fill out a form and they'll train you how to use them, and will loan them to you for about 40 days, and any location you go to, you can contribute to. It's really cool, and especially now that they have light equipment. And if you're not familiar with what they do, if you go to Google Earth, or Street View, this is just a few amazing places they do, and you sort of can walk around. If you have a VR set or like a pair, it's fascinating. But cool even without it, just to show you a few places. And you see how it's got a little arrow, so you kind of go around it. This is just a few cool places. So I'll be collecting the Street View imagery. It'll be published, we're now targeting end of October, so check it out when it's published. But that wasn't enough. We're working with the Voyager team. Again, if you have not checked out Google Voyager, I almost didn't know about them till about a year ago. What the team does is they elegantly package all the imagery that the Street View team provides and provide some narratives, really cool stories like that. What we're collecting for them, and they worked with NASA before, what we're collecting for them are sound bites of the island, for example, when you walk out at night and all you hear is just the wind or an occasional something popping out from around the corner. I don't know, since it's void of animals. Sound bites, pictures, videos. I think what works for us is we have a bunch of NASA scientists, so we'll interview them as well. So the stories that are gonna be accompanying the imagery are gonna be really educational. It's a really cool story they just did on Christmas Island on red crab migration. So educational, and it sort of has 7 panels here that you can see and describes about their life. It's really cool. I think I have another, that's just a few more things that the Voyager team did with NASA. It's just fascinating, and it's just cool to look at. Third part, so we're collecting Street View imagery, we are building a story with the Voyager team. What Google also does via Google Earth is that we hire teachers who write the curricula to share with any educators. So for this, I'm sort of a conduit between the teaching resource we hire and 2 NASA scientists who are gonna sit down together and write the curricula for astronomy classes in school that teachers can use as a complement to their already existing curricula to make the experience in a classroom more interactive. We're really touched by it, and NASA is so open. Their educational mandate is phenomenal, and they don't get the word out, even though they have so much knowledge that they could share. And as if that wasn't enough. We're also building, so once Google sort of heard of what I'm doing, they said, why don't we bring a production team? So we're actually making a document. No, Matt Damon is not gonna be in it, sorry. No, that was just a cool image to put on. We're actually bringing a few videographers, a producer and a sound engineer to make a documentary, not about the cool location that Devon Island is, but also what NASA's efforts are there. And I mean, it's really cool because what they do is they do a Mars trip simulation. They actually pretend as if they were on Mars. They live in really restricted conditions. They go out on daily expeditions, hikes, they traverse for miles and days, with no food or very strict sanitary restrictions. So these are a few pictures from National Geographic's when they accompanied the three people, the two people that went there, civilians that are not planetary scientists that went there, and they took a few pictures. This is actually from the back, Dr. Pascal Lee, the director of Mars Institute, who is my contact and who I'm going with. And he's right at the crater. What they do is they go and they check the samples. They do geological excavations. Yeah, and this is not what Curiosity looks like, but oh well. That's what they work with. And yeah, we will suit up. So we actually will wear the astronaut suits and we'll take the ATVs out and go out on hikes as well as rides like this. So I think worth documenting. The documentary is scheduled to come out November, so be on the lookout. I can't, at this point, release any further information. There are a few other things we're working on because it is exciting and Google loves working with NASA, but the rest of it is just not public yet. Yeah, and why am I speaking at this conference? Not many notes, and my speaker notes are not working, so I'll try to improvise this. So, number one, I'm a woman, and I'm in tech, even though I'm not an engineer. Number two, I've been invited to speak at another Women in Tech conference, but it was so heavily skewed to talking about the struggle of women versus their accomplishments. So I really appreciate that this is targeting being inspirational and talking about what women are doing. Because growing up in the Soviet Russia, I think I had so many other struggles, like poverty and corruption, that identifying as a woman and thinking about glass ceiling wasn't my priority. Like, I had other things on my plate. And then moving from country to country, I'm not going to deny that there is a glass ceiling, but I am a strong believer that you sort of make your career, you make your life, you make your opportunities. And I think I'm a good example of it. It's not always easy, but I don't mind failure. I think we learn so much from it. So, and I'm not going to change the world. As Katka was talking before, every country is different, diversity in every country is different. But if one person, I don't know, after watching the video or learning about the talk, even if just one person goes out today and says, you know what, I'm gonna do it. Like, if she could do it, she's not an engineer, she immigrated from Russia, NASA was closed, that's like good enough of excuse. If one person goes inspired or moved and does something, even if you talk to, I don't know, your VP instead of normally talking to your director, and you dare and you do it, most likely people are going to say yes. Again, we want to see other people succeed, and people love when you work on cool stuff. They really do. So that one person is my goal. If one person thinks this is cool and does something, my goal is here, is accomplished. And while they're building the rocket to go to Mars, and I'm working on other things related to NASA with Google, I'm just going to leave this here. Be inspiring. Be curious. I will continue creating my own opportunities. That's what drives me. That's what keeps me entertained and interested. And love what you do. I mean, they say that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Not true, you still work really hard. All of it is a lot of work, and I think at least once a month I'm ready to pull my hair out, but it's all worth it. It really is. And yeah, thanks so much for hosting me, for inviting me, for organizing this. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Katja Minitsenka.
Oh yeah, sorry, questions, so yeah.
We actually need to change up the presentation meanwhile, if it's okay. And can we have, 2 questions? There is someone.
Oh yeah, like as if you were alone. There's so many people at Google now that are like, oh, how can we join? We'll send an engineer, we'll send somebody. Very limited spots. First of all, it's an isolated island, there's no infrastructure, so we charter a plane to go there, and you need a special permission. So like we had to submit our names in advance for NASA to actually say it's okay to go. Mars Institute under NASA Ames program has an internship program, so they actually, if you're really interested, you can reach out. It's an international project too, so it's not only open to people who work for NASA or people who live in America, so reach out, they're really open. Even if you don't get to go, maybe you get to do some research or share your knowledge or learn something. I'm also here at the planetarium on Tuesday evening, so if you want to come and talk directly to the NASA scientist I'm working with, because we're going to be video conferencing him in, you're more than welcome to ask those questions. But this trip, and they only do it once a year, this trip is kind of full. Yeah, sorry. maybe next year.
Okay, one more. Okay. Katja Minitsenka, everyone.
Thank you.